Hey there, y'all. Welcome. Today, my guest is Brittany Cano. She is a nurse and a coach, and she is going to tell us all about stress and weight and what we can do about it. So, Brittany, welcome. We're glad you could be here today.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Yay. So, tell the people who are watching a little bit about your background and then what you now do.
All right. So my background's in critical care or intensive care, ICU nursing. So we typically would take care of pretty much the sickest people in the hospital if they made it out of ER. So that's my background. That's what I've primarily done. But about 8 years ago, seeing that a lot of the patients, even in ICU, could have potentially avoided being in there had they had different lifestyle choices. And at the same time, I was learning that myself, the power of choice and really changing my life a lot. So that's when I started my company, and now I do holistic wellness coaching for the overextended woman who's been taking care of everybody and everything and doesn't maybe even know who she is or what she even wants anymore.
Yeah, so good. That sounds like a lot of my clients, overextended, overbusy women taking care of everybody else. So let's back up a little bit. When you say holistic, I know, and this might be an inside my head thing, but I don't think I'm the only one that thinks this. When I hear holistic, I tend to make that mean complementary or alternative. But for you, like I know we've talked about this a couple of times and it finally clicked with me like, oh no, when Brittany means says holistic, she really means holistic. So can you tell people what you do? Let's start with the physical. If for people that are here local, what kind of physical support do you offer for them?
So physical support can be anywhere from like IV vitamin hydration, fitness training, fitness programming. We can do that virtually as well. The health coaching piece, so helping you create healthy habits as it relates to your physical health, general support with nutrition. So those are some of the things that fall under the physical part of the holistic.
Gotcha. And what else is there besides just, and again, that's another thing that I think a lot of people assume is they're like, oh, well, health, it's just about eat vegetables, exercise. And while those are super important and great places to start, what else is there in your definition of holistic?
So we also go through mental health, which, as anyone who has a mind knows, is a complex system. So there's a lot that happens in the mind. So we look at belief systems, coping mechanisms. What's your stress level? How are you dealing with the stress? And a big part of the work that we do is to teach the client how to self-regulate, how to create that sense of inner calm and be the accountability person in their life, be able to take leadership of their life from a place that, really supports them. So then there's a mental piece, emotional piece, right? All of these are all tied together. So if I was to just work only, which because you do weight loss coaching, if you were just to say, eat this, move this, for a majority of people, it's way more complex than that, right? Like that's not going to cut it for weight loss. Same thing with overall well-being. If I just approach it from physical, we're so limited. So then it's like the emotional component and that emotional regulation. What's going on in your relationships, including the one with yourself. And then we also look at your spiritual life. So for some people, they have absolutely no spiritual life, might not be important to them. And we're holistic beings. So if we don't have, let's say, a healthy mind, it's going to affect our body. If our body is really unhealthy, it's going to take its toll on our emotions at some point. So it's all our relationships, right? If you've ever been sick, you know how that affects the family dynamic, right? Or taking care of a sick person, it changes things. So that's why I work with clients in that holistic approach.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think the way a lot of us were raised, the sort of old Western paradigm was this is the way I was raised, right? Is like my brain is what's valuable and important, and my body exists to move my brain from place to place.
Right. And then that's
And
like
like,
it.
yeah,
Two
yeah,
totally
we
separate things, right?
exactly. But the more I study and the more I learn, the more we start to see, like, oh, wow, our gut health affects our mental health, right? Not just because if you feel sick, you can't concentrate, but even just the hormones, the neurotransmitters, a lot of those are produced in the gut. They affect the brain. And then a lot of what we're telling ourselves and how we're feeling, that produces a cascade of effects throughout the body. So we're not a brain in a meat taxi. We're
We're really not.
right. We are truly holistic beings. It's like The Matrix is probably my favorite movie of all time. And Morpheus says the body cannot exist without the mind. And it's so true. They both impact and affect. It makes sense, right? Our brain is a part of our body. We just have this, frankly, incorrect perception that they're separate, and really they're not.
They're really not. Everything that happens in the mind has shows up somehow in the body, and vice
Mhm.
versa. It's all interconnected.
Yeah, yeah. What were some things that you saw as a nurse that now you help clients prevent?
Type 2 diabetes
Mhm.
all day, every day, which is something, depending on how far that disease has progressed, can be reversed. So definitely type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiac disease, the effects of just stress and their nervous system being all out of balance. So people will come to me with like gut issues, headaches, I'm achy all the time, I'm irritable, I can't focus, I'm not sleeping. So
Mhm.
through that nervous system regulation piece, we're able to get things back into balance. So that's another thing. People come to me with autoimmune, which, I'm going to be careful to say that that's preventable because it's not always. And it's definitely a disease that in a lot of cases can be managed, sometimes even put into remission with lifestyle. Not always,
Yeah,
but sometimes, definitely.
yeah, that's really huge. And I'm going to swap out my batteries while you answer this next question. Sorry. Tell us a little bit about stress and health. Um, and then next we'll go into stress and weight because I think again, right, this is part of that whole mind body connection. So tell us a little, and I know stress is one of the areas you focus on with clients. Tell us a little bit about how stress affects our health.
Well, totally. As a former recovering busy woman over here myself, most of the women I work with, I would say, have busy woman syndrome. So the effects of stress have started to affect their physical health, their relationships, their mental health. So there can be that, we'll start with physical health, right? When we're under chronic stress, our adrenaline, our cortisol, they're on the rise. Things that happen with that increased cortisol, our liver, makes more blood sugar. We are at a higher risk for type 2 diabetes just from that chronic stress piece there. Then we find ourselves wanting sweet and sugary foods, right? Ever find yourself just at the refrigerator and you're not even hungry, just wanting sweets? That might be an indicator, right? Stress might be unmanaged. Also decreases digestion, both high adrenaline and cortisol. So you think constipation, IBS, nausea, acid, like reflux kind of stuff. Headaches are common with elevated adrenaline, excessive sweating. If somebody's sweating a lot, can be a result of high adrenaline. And then just the mental piece of that, like depression, emotional lability, like so many things can be a result of unmanaged stress. And there's just so that all of that high cortisol, all of that high adrenaline, everything that increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, right? Then we're leading into, if that's not checked over time, then we have heart disease, right? Number one killer of women, heart disease. So like stress is really, it's such a real thing. 90% of disease is rooted in stress. So it's
Yeah.
something that is not to just be taken lightly at all. And a lot of times we don't even recognize under stress because we've been under it for so long. We've gradually gotten over, gotten more and more stressed, but we're just like, this is my normal, right? So we may not even recognize I'm stressed.
Yeah, yeah, that's really important. And stress affects our weight too. You already kind of talked about like emotional eating, stress eating. Some people are aware I am stressed and I'm eating and I feel bad and I'm going to eat to make myself feel good. But are there ways inside the body that stress can affect our weight as well?
Yeah, with that cortisol piece, the cortisol
Hmm.
on the rise, right? We're going to hold on to that belly fat. We're going to hold on to, blood sugar levels are higher. It's going to be harder to lose weight. And if you think about it like this from a survival standpoint, if you're always stressed, even though it's your norm, you've been operating this way your entire life, but now here you are in your 40s and your 50s, and it's not the only reason you might be gaining weight, but it definitely could be a contributing, it is a contributing factor, I would like to say, if you are somebody who's stressed out, it's gonna have its toll. It's gonna have its toll on everything.
It makes perfect sense. I think a lot of people think of stress like the weather. Like they may or may not be aware that they're stressed, but either way, they think, well, this is just my life. I have to work. I can't quit my job. I can't leave my I mean, you could, but they generally don't want to leave their kids at the fire station, right? Like somebody's got to do the laundry. So, how much control and influence do we have over either how we perceive the stress or how the stress affects us if we can't just quit our jobs and go live on a mountaintop and meditate all day? What
Yeah,
can
I
we
will say there's
do?
definitely a lot of things that we can do to manage our stress, expand our capacity to deal with the stress, self-regulate. And that being said, if we're living from survival mode, those instincts are automatic, right? When those survival modes, then they kick in, they're automatic. So it's so important that we have practices that create that sense of calm, regulate the parasympathetic nervous system. If you're somebody who's always in the sympathetic, that fight, flight, or freeze. So, but there are a lot of things that we can do. I think it starts with that awareness. Oh crap, I've been under a lot of stress for a long time. Even though this is normal for me, this is a lot of stress. And how do you even discover that? Look at yourself, right? Look at the symptoms. People will just say, oh, you're getting older, that's why you're exhausted all the time, or you can't sleep, that's just part of it, or you just gain weight because you're getting older, or your stomach's just upset just because, right? There's no answer, right? Look at what symptoms your body and your mind are presenting to you and use them as a detective, right? Go on a little what is my body trying to tell me? And then I think that's a good starting point. And then there's a wealth of research. I'm a great resource, and so are you, to help people manage the stress. But it starts with the
Absolutely.
awareness and the willingness to do something to change. But we can totally do that. We have
Yeah.
that power. I think I always tell it's a superpower to me to be able to create that sense of inner calm and manage stress. But first you have to be aware that it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And this again is where your holistic approach comes in because it's about what's up for the client, what do they need? And then also, and I do this too, right? So, what's going on with the client? And then we look in our little bag of tricks and say, what do we think would help? And then teaching the client those tricks, helping them build them into our lives. And so, for your clients, so not just what do they need, but also what are they open to? So, you might have some clients that are like, so I actually had this happen. I had a lady I know. I'm not going to out her. I'll let her come to you. But she knows you and she knows me. And she was kind of struggling. And she's like, well, if you and Brittany do the same thing, of course I want to go with you. And I said, well, there is some overlap, right? Like if you want to talk about your feelings, probably either one of us would be a good fit. And she said, oh, no, I definitely don't want to do that.
I don't want to talk about my feelings.
And I was like, oh, well, if you don't want to talk about your thoughts and feelings, probably you want to talk to Brittany because she can, hook you up with a workout or whatever. But, so there's some overlap, but there's definitely differences too. And sorry, I forgot the thread of where I was going with that. Do you know?
Well, just meeting people with where they're at and
Yes. Thank you.
addressing, yeah, what they're
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
dealing with. Yeah, and
Exactly.
come being able to come at it from multiple angles, which I know you do too as well, and meeting people with where they're at. Because if you don't want to talk about your emotions and you don't really want to get into anything, that's all fine and dandy. And I will say that at some point that's going to only take you so far.
Yeah.
So at some point,
So
if you're
true.
like, I'm so stuck, and you're unwilling to look at your emotions, you're unwilling to really explore those thoughts, you're unwilling to sit still, Like I would encourage you to like access that courage and be willing to look underneath the surface because you got a whole bunch of answers if you're willing to go there.
So
And on the
true.
other side, right, is like healthy weight, more energy, deeper connection to yourself and to life, enjoying life more, like just living the life you were meant to live if we're
Yeah.
willing to do the work.
Yeah. And it's like any other aspect of life, right? Like if the kitchen is a disaster, maybe, it's the day after Thanksgiving, the kitchen is a disaster. You don't even want to look in there. I get it.
Yeah.
And right, the way out is through. So at some point, we're going to have to look at the kitchen, see that there's a mess, right? Know that we're a little behind. And you do, there's like usually a backlog of stuff that, like, oh, yeah, I should have dealt with this when I was 8, but I didn't know how. I didn't have tools, I didn't have support. So once you get through that backlog, again, just like Thanksgiving, once we get like, okay, all the pots and pans, the dishes, the dishwasher is running, right? Like new things will come up, new dishes will have to be washed, but if you can do your maintenance, you have a lot more tools and resources. But just getting in there and starting is really I think the key to success. So, anything else that you want to mention to clients that might be helpful for them around managing their stress and their health in general?
Yeah, I would say, like, I'd like to just teach about this really quickly. I'll make it quick. So there's a part of, and you've heard me say it throughout this call, there's a part of our nervous system that's that fight, flight, or freeze, that on the go, that the part of us that helps get things done. And it's very important. And a lot of us live in that all the time. We're always planning, we're always doing, we're always executing, we're always performing, we're on. We crash out at the end of the day, right? Or we get burned out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that parasympathetic, which is the rest, the digest, the reproduce. And so much of the time, we are not, there's no balance between those two. Like, especially as somebody who's dealing with a lot of stress, has a ton of responsibilities. So it's so important that we have some regulation in that. So, how do we do that? One of the most simple techniques is to start to tune into your breath and breathe down into the belly. It's so simple, right? But how many times a day we breathe 40 to 60,000 times a day on average. And so many of the times we're disconnected from our breath and we're breathing like this shallow breath. We're not relaxing the shoulders. We're not really expanding the inhale and letting the belly really rise, and the exhale be even longer than the in breath. And it sounds too simple to be true. One of those things like we talked about, like some people are like, I don't think this is going to do anything. Like, if listeners want to practice with us right now, taking a big inhale through your nose, let your belly rise. Big exhale out through the mouth. Just with one breath like that. So imagine doing multiple breaths like that several times a day. So it's a great way to start to create awareness, connect you to the present, to yourself, and regulate. Start to begin that self-regulation piece.
So good. And a lot of people know that, even if you don't come from any kind of hippie background. If you've ever been in choir, if you've ever been in band, that's the right way to breathe. But how often do we do it, right? We just don't pay attention. We get, again, tense. We do all the effort right from in here. So taking a moment, right? Even if you're skeptical about hippie stuff, if you've been in choir, you've been in band, you know how to do it. Getting down into that belly and just taking a nice big breath. And then, like you said, longer on the exhale than the inhale. That's a way of consciously telling your body, your subconscious, like everything is okay. Settle down,
It
relax.
is, right. And it's not hippie. Like breath keeps us alive. Like it's
Right.
science. It
Even
is science.
nurses know that, right?
And I know people are like, oh, that doesn't do anything. I will like encourage you, give it a go, right? Like if you just did it right now, you probably even from one intentional breath were like, oh, if not, do like 3 to 5. Do it a few times a day for a while. Like it's so simple. It's so
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
Right?
And
There's no cost.
going back to that stress, right? Sometimes there are things in the world that we're stressed out about, but a lot of it is the thoughts we're having. right? Because we all know people that are busy and they're just, placid and calm and serene, and they just sort of
Exactly.
glide from one thing to another. And then we also know people that don't seem to get anything done all day and are like,
Yeah,
right?
like
So
a
it's not
frantic energy, one thing to the next, and always
exactly.
like thinking about, oh my gosh, this, that, there's so much pressure.
Exactly. It's not just the things in the external world that we don't have control over. We actually do have a lot of control. Again, just in that, you can do this in the bathroom, right? You if you have time to pee, you have time to
You
breathe.
have time to breathe. Yeah, exactly. Tagline.
And if you don't have time to pee, take time, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Self-care
a whole
101.
other, we're gonna call Beth. That's a whole other topic. Make sure
Absolutely.
you're
So
taking your bathroom breaks too.
yeah. So tell folks a little bit about what you offer both in person and online if they are thinking about getting some help from you.
Yeah, so the thing that I primarily do is holistic wellness coaching. So it's a holistic well-being program. It's one-on-one. It's really personalized and catered to what you need. So, I do a holistic intake going over your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social well-being. And then each week during the program, there's specific tools to help you accomplish your goals and really live a very healthy and balanced, energetic life. So that's my biggest offering in this 12-week program, one-on-one, lots of support. It's a great program. It really is. I've had a lot of women, come through it, and it's awesome to see like the before. Like I had one lady come to me, panic attacks like regularly to the point she was going to ER.
Wow.
And now she's able to like self-regulate. Does she still have anxiety? She still has anxiety. And she's not going to the ER all the time and having panic attacks. And she's able to like manage her anxiety. And now she's able to do more things in life that she wanted to do. And she's got a little girl. So just think about
Mm.
how that's, going to support her daughter and her husband.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one-on-one program. And then I also offer retreats. We just came off one from Costa Rica. We usually do 1 to 2 retreats a year. So the next one is next year, and it's a reset and recharge retreat. So same thing, holistic in that everything is taken care of you. It's a perfect environment for a healthy, happy, amazingly fun week, and really a foundation to create healthy habits and do deep work and also have a lot of fun in a beautiful place.
Yeah, so good. And I know for anybody that's watching that's considering one of Brittany's retreats, I went to the one November of 2021, and it was just exactly what I needed. I needed kind of like a reset. And one of the things I really appreciated is there were plenty of activities available, but not everything was mandatory. So, if there was something that somebody was like, oh, I don't want to do that, I don't feel physically like I can do that. There were a lot of things people could opt in and out of. So that for the introverts, yes, there are things available, but you get some downtime. For the
Downtime as well.
extroverts, we can
Right.
keep you
You
going
can
all
go,
the time,
yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And
It's a
everywhere
good
in
mix.
between, right? The people that are really physically fit and the people that maybe like that's one of the areas they want to make a shift in. So it's really, really great. And I know you do some things here locally as well. So people, I guess, can check out your
Yeah, check out my
website.
website would be the best,
Okay.
which is Holistic Nurse Coaches. So Holistic Nurse Coaches, there's an ES on the end of coaches.com. And then from there, I have events posted. I also have, if you go there and sign up, you can get a free emotional freedom technique video to help reduce your symptoms of stress and get in on also some other goodies with that.
Fantastic. So I'll put it in the description, but holistic nurse coaches with an ES at the end, and just wait for the pop up and then put in your information, and they would get the
They'll
email
get the free
with,
video, they'll
yes,
get a digital positive affirmation card and some other cool things with it.
fantastic. And if you would like to work with me, I also offer EFT. Brittany and I, there is some overlap, but we're different humans and do different things. So if you've been following my work, you want to work with me, lisaduke.net. You can always from there find out the latest and greatest. As of October 2023, I am also offering one-on-one private coaching via Zoom. I'm not doing any events or retreats or training or anything like that. But for the mental, the emotional, that sort of well-being, that is something I offer as well. So you can find more at lisaduke.net. So Brittany, thank you so much for being with me today. And everybody
Thank you,
watching,
Lisa. Bye,
see y'all
everybody.
later. Bye.
Thanks.